Alright, I know that I've been making a lot of videos about Facebook, aka Meta, over the past couple of months, but they just keep stepping in crap. It's like Mark Zuckerberg is standing in the middle of a giant field littered with dog crap, and no matter what move he makes, no matter where he steps, he's just going to end up in more crap. At this point, it seems like the only real decision he can make is would he rather step in the dog crap that's got corn in it or the dog crap with peanuts in it? Now, the latest bit of crap that Meta has stepped in is yet another lawsuit, this time coming out of the great state of Texas. So, this lawsuit was filed by Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, and it alleges that Facebook unlawfully captured the biometric data of Texans for commercial purposes without their informed consent. Now, this isn't even the first time that Facebook has been sued for something like this. In fact, just last year, they lost a privacy lawsuit in the state of Illinois and had to pay out $650 million as a result, which sounds like a lot of money. But when you put it in the context of Facebook, a company that was worth over $500 billion, it's small potatoes. That's like if somebody sued me and after losing, I had to pay out 20 bucks. Sure, would you prefer cash check? Actually, I know. Why don't I just give you this $30 Cheesecake Factory gift card? We'll call it even. Now, the primary issue that was brought up both by the Illinois lawsuit and this new one that was recently filed in Texas is Facebook's facial recognition technology. It violated Illinois' privacy laws because Facebook didn't ask for users' consent before they used this technology to scan photos of them and then allow people to tag the photos, which basically lets you link photos of people to their Facebook profile. And you can probably imagine some scenarios in which something like that would be a little bit concerning. Maybe your college professor was a frat boy 10 years ago and he doesn't want some of his hazing photos of him dressing up as a femboy getting linked to his current Facebook profile. Or maybe one of your teachers was attending Mardi Gras and wanted to get some extra beads, so she pulled out them big old titties right on Bourbon Street. She doesn't need that picture to get tagged on Facebook and linked to her profile for her students to see. It's already hard enough to be a MILF and a high school teacher at the same time. But some of the examples of how facial recognition is used that were mentioned in the Texas lawsuit are even more sinister than finding degenerate pictures of your teachers from when they were younger. Facial recognition is a technology that is beloved by criminals and stalkers who are able to locate a potential target's name, their address, and other personal information about them just by having a picture of them and then being able to find any other additional data that Facebook or these other social media companies might have linked to that picture with the tag suggestions feature, which is what it was called in Facebook, a feature that they added back in 2010. Now, that feature was discontinued last year, but a lot of damage has already been done by it, and just because this feature is no longer accessible to the people that are using Facebook anymore, that doesn't mean that Facebook doesn't still keep that data stored for their own creepy uses. In the past decade, that tag suggestions were a thing, Facebook had ended up storing the biometric identifiers, including face scans, retina scans, iris scans, fingerprints, voice print, which is basically just the unique sound and patterns that your voice makes, as well as the unique geometry of people's faces and their palm prints. Facebook has all of this biometric data of millions of users. And they probably have more biometric data when you think about it than some of the people that ended up going to the prison systems. Because when you get booked in the system, they take your picture, they take your fingerprints, they take your palm prints, they take your blood. But yeah, Facebook might honestly have more biometric data on their users than the state has on their prisoners. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not against biometric technology by any means. In fact, I even use them on my phones. I use biometrics on my work laptop since it has a fingerprint scanner. Biometrics are a really great way to authenticate. And honestly, I would say that biometrics are the future of authentication because when you look at things like passwords, passwords are well, they often end up being hard for humans to remember and easy for computers to guess. So that's not what you want in an authentication system. But just like with all of the rest of the technology I use, I want my biometric data to be secured. The last thing that I need is somebody getting their hands on a copy of my fingerprint and then planting it on a dead hooker in Baltimore. And personally, I think that one of the best ways to make sure that this data is secured is for the implementation of it to be free and open source. This way I can audit the source code of it myself to make sure that my face isn't getting emailed directly to the Zuck every time I unlock my phone, so that he can print it on a flash card for when he's practicing how to show human emotions. So I really hope that Facebook loses this lawsuit in Texas. I have been hearing a lot of bad things coming out of Texas after the great exodus of the Californians to the state, but if Facebook loses that lawsuit, then it's a sign that everything is still great, and it would be a very cool thing to happen indeed. In other news about Facebook, the 36-year-old head of global community development for Meta recently got caught having sexual conversations with a 13-year-old boy and even invited him up to his hotel room to hang out. Now, the reason that he was caught and the reason that this is on YouTube is because there was no 13-year-old boy. It was basically a decoy that was set up by one of these predator catching channels. Like, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with this side of YouTube, but there's a whole bunch of these different, like, I guess you could basically say they're like To Catch a Predator-esque spin-off channels. Basically, they're doing the same kind of thing that Chris Hansen was doing with Dateline NBC back in the day. Now, of course, these are YouTubers, so the production quality isn't going to be quite as high as Chris Hansen's with like multiple camera angles and stuff like that. But what matters is that they do get these guys off the streets. Well, most of the time. Some of these channels, they do just make the predators do goofy, humiliating things. Like I've seen some of them, they just like make them eat dog food out of a dog food bowl and then like tell them to go home. But a lot of these predator catching channels, they actually do work with police. Colorado Ped Patrol is one that I'll give a quick shout out to because I think that he's one of the more professional predator catchers, at least that I've seen. And if I'm not mistaken, he's gotten like 2/3 of the guys that he's confronted arrested. But anyway, this Meta head of community development, he was trying to prey on a 13-year-old boy. And this is the original video here. I want to make sure that this person gets credit. PCM, Predator Catchers, Muncie? I'm not sure how you really pronounce the last part. And I think that maybe this was a collab that was done with another channel. I know that a lot of these Predator Catcher channels do collabs, but I do really think that this video deserves more views because it did go viral on the internet for a bit, some parts like Twitter and Reddit. But yeah, this is sick. It's disgusting. And a lot of the time it actually ends up being this sort of self-propelling problem because a lot of child molesters, especially men that are going after little boys, they say that they were molested themselves when they were younger. So it seems like something happens to people after they get exploited like that. I mean, I'm not a therapist or anything, but maybe they're telling themselves that it's okay as a way to cope with the trauma of them being exploited, and then that cope turns into a justification for them doing it to another little kid later on. But it's not okay, especially not at age 13. Like, that's a middle schooler, bro. When I was 13, I wasn't sexually active at all. I was playing RuneScape and shit. Now, Meta, they actually did end up firing this guy because they had to, right? I mean, Facebook's PR is so bad. They've tried changing their name to Meta to fix it, but honestly, a lot more of the bad PR has actually come out since their name change. And now they find out that one of their executives is a pedo, creeping on 13-year-old boys. Yeah, they had to axe that guy. But it makes you wonder how many more pedos are working at Meta, right? I mean, maybe they should apply some of that biometric scanning to Epstein's photo collection. Let's see how many Facebook employees have taken a flight to Little St. James Island and visited for a few days. But that's it for this video, guys. Please like and comment, tag the algorithm, and have a great day.